how we get to a green energy transition and that future. And this session that is coming up follows that quite nicely. So I also hope that you had an opportunity to do the Climate Action Plan activity that's over here. For those who are joining us now, welcome to the Climate Action and Trivia session. And I'm very pleased to introduce our session moderator and Office of Energy and Sustainability Analyst Extraordinaire, Madeline Falco.
Hi, everybody. So this is a tough crowd after lunch, let me tell you, because everybody's eating lunch, people are coming in late, and I'm okay with it. So, hi, everybody. My name is Madeline, as Jessica said, Office of Energy and Sustainability. So, thank you very much, Jessica. Thank you, everybody, for attending today. This session will focus on SDSU's operations. Oh, wait a minute. I did the green button. Oh, it's only changing on the monitors, guys. Okay. Tech support in the back, please. Thank you very much. Moving on. So, we'll focus on SDSU's operations, and this is what goes on behind the scenes, the guts of the buildings that nobody sees. Also, we'll be talking about the biggest greenhouse gas emitters. Reverse slides. Nope. Go back. Thank you. We'll talk about greenhouse gas emitters and climate action efforts here on campus. You will also learn about the steps we're taking and the progress that we're making to lower emissions. To lower emissions from the biggest campus emitters, that is, which is our campus power plant. They mentioned that earlier, the cogeneration plant, transportation to and from campus, and landfill waste. At the end of this session, there will be a question and answer. And after that, you can test your sustainability knowledge with the best part of the day, which is trivia and prizes, so please make sure you stick around for that. For questions, please scan the QR code you see up there on the slide. Or if you're not able to access the QR code, there'll be a student running around somewhere. We call them a mic runner. We'll flag them down. You can raise your hand and ask a question, so we will accommodate. One more thing, and this is like my big ask here. So, everybody sees these little posters here on the side. Those are our Climate Action Plan update measures. They're in draft form right now. We'd like to finalize this in the next couple of months. So we'd ask you to please peruse, walk around, questions, comments, advice, concerns, whatever it is, please place the Post-its, and we have them available with some markers. We really do value your input, and your voice does matter. So we'd like to finalize these efforts in the next couple of months with your input. So thank you for that. Let's see. The good part. Now I would like to introduce someone who I call our fearless leader and a founding member of what I have coined the Dream Team, Green Team. You know who you are, all of you out there. Please welcome Kristen Larson, Director of the Office of Energy and Sustainability. Kristen, take it away.
Thank you, Madeline. All right, can you hear me? All right, thank you, Madeline. So when I was a college student, like many of you in the audience today, years ago, that was when I first started to learn about climate change and climate action. I was a freshman in college at the University of Massachusetts, Amherst, still figuring out what I wanted to do with my career. In high school, I remember learning about broad definitions of global warming, climate change, all of that, but college was when I first really was able to dive deeper into climate science and how humans impact the earth and the environment. And the environment is something that I care deeply about. I grew up in Minnesota, the land of 10,000 lakes, and you can go boating, ice fishing, hiking, and I just love the outdoors. Swimming, you name it. And those that are native to San Diego I know that you get that as well. You have the beach here, hiking options in January, beautiful mountains, microclimates to explore. Nature is one of the biggest draws to living in San Diego. So in college, I learned that something that I cared deeply about was under threat, and I knew I wanted to help. And I wanted to solve the pressing issue of climate change. I then decided to major in environmental sciences and minor in wildlife and fisheries conservation. Then from there, I committed well over a decade of my life to learning and working on climate action, and it has become my passion. And it doesn't even end there. So 2 very recent events occurred that have ignited my passion even more. The first being that I started working at SDSU about 2 years ago. And I started working with incredibly talented sustainability student assistants, and many of them are in the audience today, in our Office of Energy and Sustainability. And I saw that I was training and guiding the next generation of climate action leaders and innovators. And they will be critical to solving how to combat climate change. You are the future. The second recent thing that happened to me and that put things into perspective was that I had a daughter about a year ago. Her name's Daphne. She's the future. Oh, thank you. She's the future too. And in 20 years from now, she will be college age, and it will be around 2040, which is when the state of California, 2040, 2045, is when the state of California is pushing to be carbon neutral. That is not that far away, and I want her, all of you, SDSU students, all of you to have bright futures. Climate action is critical. So that's a little bit about me. I'm Kristen Larson, the Director of Energy and Sustainability here at SDSU. And one of our top priorities right now is to update the SDSU Climate Action Plan. And Madeline spoke to this briefly. And so, yes, this is me. And Madeline spoke to that briefly. We had a previous 5-year plan from 2017 to 2022, and now we want to update the plan to encompass new carbon neutrality goals and look 5, 10, and 15 years or more into the future. This will be a roadmap for the university. And it is not my plan, but it's our plan. It's the university's plan. And we need everyone to work together to tackle the serious issue of climate action. I do have some direct asks for you today that I'll get to, but first I want to make sure everyone knows the who, what, when, where, and why of climate action. Some of you may be new to this, like I was in college, and I want to make sure that we have the same level of understanding. So, who does climate change impact? Everyone. Everyone in this room, faculty, students, staff, everyone. My daughter over at the Children's Center, it affects everyone. So, what is climate action? Well, in scientific terms, it's taking steps to reduce and eliminate greenhouse gas emissions, any gases like methane and carbon dioxide that trap heat into the atmosphere. In layman's terms, I took from this book, so I don't know if you can see in the picture, but it says climate change for babies. This is light reading for my daughter, and I'm not kidding, I do read this to her. So it says industry, heating, coal power, transportation, livestock, and fertilizers all send greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. This is making the earth unwell. If we do our part, the earth will start to feel better. So when does climate action need to happen? Right now. Global temperatures are reaching record highs. Every fraction of additional warming above 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit will bring worsening impacts, threatening lives, food sources, livelihoods, and economies worldwide, according to the United Nations. Where should climate action happen? Climate change is a global issue, but we need to focus on what is in our control. We can take action right here at SDSU. About 47% of our emissions come from energy we produce here on campus at our power plant and what we buy to power our campus buildings. Another 47% come from commuting and travel on campus. Most of us are driving fossil fuel cars to campus and taking airplanes to travel to and from for conferences. And then 4% is what we throw away. Recycling, trash, composting, you see it in the room. And the rest is other sources. So why should climate action be implemented? Well, if we act now, we can provide a livable and bright future for the next generation and ourselves. We can continue to have spaces like the Turtle Pond, which is right here, one of my favorite places here on campus, beautiful fruit trees, wildlife, and great places for people to enjoy. So now to my asks. There are many ways to take action here on campus. Here are a few, and you'll hear more from the other presenters in this session. Sort your waste. Know what can be recycled versus composted. Do that today. All of our, plates, silverware, all of that in this room, you can put that in the compost bin. Use reusable water bottles and refill at our over 100 hydration stations, and take transit to and from campus. We're very lucky to have a transit center here on campus. We have, and then if you stop by there on the table, there are free transit passes as well, so make sure you do that. And then turn off your lights in your office or dorm room when not in use. And then if you want any more tips, go to sustainable.sdsu.edu to learn more. But my biggest ask today is to share your input on the proposed climate action plan measures over there. We want to hear from you. The climate action plan will guide campus climate action, or the climate action plan will guide campus climate action for years to come. And the best and strongest plan will take into account many diverse perspectives. So with that, thank you. I'm going to turn things over to Brian Stern. He's the Director of Energy at GLUMAC, who worked tirelessly on the SDSU's carbon neutrality study. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kristen. So my name is Brian Stern. I am with GLUMAC, which is an engineering consulting company. Had the pleasure of working with San Diego State for about a year and a half to develop the carbon neutrality study for the campus. So I want to share a little bit from that. Also want to give thanks to a lot of folks within SDSU, from facilities, sustainability, energy, capital planning. There's a lot of people involved in this study to make sure that it represented all of the different user groups throughout the university. So just to start, what is the San Diego State Carbon Neutrality Study? This was both a technical assessment of the campus as well as a strategic planning exercise to really create a comprehensive approach to reducing operational and Scope 3 emissions on the campus. Some of the key strategies that we're going to talk about today include energy efficiency, electrification, so transitioning from fossil fuel to electricity, looking at the cogeneration plant, looking at clean energy microgrid technologies, electric vehicles, as well as clean electricity. It's really a comprehensive view of all the different actions that San Diego State can take in order to reduce their operational emissions. Starting with an emissions inventory. So emissions are categorized into Scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. Scope 1 and 2 are considered the operational emissions. So these are direct emissions on the university's campus that contribute towards climate change. This shows a breakdown from 2022 of the operational emissions within San Diego State. So some of the key findings, as it's apparent from this graph, the cogeneration plant accounts for around 83% of operational emissions from burning natural gas. This is obviously a huge source of emissions and something that the university will need to address in order to meet its climate action goals. The second largest source is other natural gas heating on the campus. So this is for some of the dormitory buildings to provide heating hot water, also for producing water heating for showers, cooking on the campus. And finally, the next largest is electricity, which is currently only 6%. The reason that's low is because San Diego produces over 90% of its electricity on campus through the cogeneration plant. So that is expected to increase in the future if the on-site generation is reduced. So before getting into some of the strategies, wanting to just give some background and context on the cogeneration plant specifically, since this is the largest source of emission for the campus. So what a cogeneration plant is a cogeneration plant includes turbines which take natural gas and produces both steam for heating on the campus as well as electricity to power buildings, computers, lighting throughout the campus. San Diego also imports some amount of electricity from San Diego Gas and Electric, as well as has some solar on campus. But in general, the cogeneration plant produces the majority of power. When this cogeneration plant was installed over 20 years ago, this represented a significant reduction in emissions relative to grid supplied power. As San Diego Gas and Electric and the grid has continued to improve, add additional renewable power, that has changed. So the typical life of a cogeneration plant is around 25 years. So this study really looked at what do we do in the future with the campus, given the life of this infrastructure, as well as what the cogen plant provides. Some of the challenges with transitioning away from the cogen plant is one, the cost of electricity from generating it on campus is cheaper than importing from the grid. So that is a barrier and a challenge that needs to be overcome. The second is that the cogen provides a significant amount of resilience to the campus. During an outage, the campus can operate entirely off grid, providing power to critical facilities, student housing. So addressing that is also really important as we're looking into the future. Some of the strategies that we looked at are first, what can we do right now to optimize that system and reduce emissions in the near term? And then second, how do we longer term look at potentially decommissioning that plant and transitioning to a cleaner system? The first, so cogeneration plant, as we mentioned, produces steam. That steam is piped through miles of underground piping throughout the campus. So the cogeneration plant is up on the north part of the campus and then distributes throughout the entire campus. A lot of this steam has been installed 30, 40 years ago. Some of it is new. There's varying condition of infrastructure throughout the campus. And this is really the biggest challenge with moving away from cogen is how do you provide heat to the entire campus? Generally, San Diego is in the process and has taken strides to begin transitioning away from steam to hot water, which allows adding new heat pump technologies and other cleaner, efficient. But so as the campus is looking forward, through this process, we looked at what that transition looked like, how much does that cost? But the biggest barrier is this is not something you can do overnight. It takes a lot of engineering, planning, design, and construction in order to transition, install that piping, and switch over systems. So the overall strategy for San Diego to address this barrier is first, over time, transition to heating hot water. So the campus has currently transitioned about a third of the campus and has projects that are currently in design and planning to transition additional portions. The next is how do we electrify those heating sources, so using heat recovery chillers, heat pumps, and then third, how do we provide renewable electricity in order to provide a clean way of operating in that heat. So it's a lot of challenges. Throughout this study, we developed different pathways, different costs to understand what is an actual feasible action plan in order to make that transition. In addition to that, the study also looked at all buildings on the campus as well as satellite campuses of what are the key strategies in order to reduce emissions from buildings. So first, how can we electrify? How can we transition away from fossil fuels? Second, how do we improve the efficiency of HVAC systems? Third, how do we transition to LED lighting to reduce electrical demand? And then fourth, how do we optimize the buildings that we do have? Through this study, we developed different pathways in order to achieve carbon neutrality. You'll see these are two potential pathways that San Diego has. The biggest barrier to achieving and decarbonizing the campus is access to funding. As you'll see, depending on the timeline, this could require between $250 to $300 million for the campus to fully decarbonize. So that funding is really the biggest challenge and barrier in order for achieving and reducing operational emissions. So through these pathways, there are detailed transitions of individual projects as well as the cogeneration plant. The biggest difference is really the timing of when do you transition from cogeneration, when do you electrify. Ultimately, funding is the #1 barrier. So through these pathways, there's critical actions that the San Diego is now working towards, and the biggest priority is really how do we get funding, how do we get the state to support San Diego's goal to decarbonize the campus. The number one priority energy project that was identified through this process is an overall clean energy microgrid for the campus. What that looks like is decommissioning the cogeneration, adding an all-electric heating plant, installing additional solar PV and battery storage on the campus, adding additional microgrid controls so that the campus can continue to operate when there's a power outage and provide power to student housing, critical facilities, and then additional electrical upgrades. Overall, this project has a cost of around $90 to $100 million. And I think the biggest call to action is helping to advocate for additional funding. Ultimately, infrastructure projects like this generally require, and a lot of other campuses are looking to get state funding. So ultimately, San Diego State can move forward with this. It's really looking at the funding, financing in the meantime, chipping off a lot of the other projects on the campus. But overall, this clean energy microgrid project would reduce energy around 45%, emissions by 73%, and provide 100% backup power to the campus. So a lot of exciting opportunities, and I think a lot of work that the university is doing of starting to implement some of the projects and really advocate for funding in order to achieve some of the larger infrastructure projects. With that, I will hand it over to JD to talk about transportation.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. That's the wrong direction. All right. I'm JD Weedman. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm Director of Parking and Transportation here. Thank you all for being here. I'm really energized by hearing from all of you and all the great work that's going on here. I'm going to start off with this awesome chart from the carbon neutrality study. This shows that transportation commuting is our 43% of our emissions. These are scope 3 emissions. So what you just heard Brian talk a lot about was a lot of scope 1 and scope 2. Scope 3 is extra challenging, right? Because we all need a car at least some of the time. A lot of times that's a fossil fuel powered car. But there's things we can do to start chipping away at that. So I've included some of those projects here, some of the things we're working on over at PATS. And the big question I'm always trying to answer is how can we work to reduce some of these emissions while also supporting student and employee success? That's our big picture goal. So quick transportation mode split. For those of you that like charts, you can study up on this. But this comes from our transportation survey, which is actually out right now. So if you have that in your inbox and you have not taken the transportation survey, please do that. Please share it with your colleagues. That's really important data for us to collect. But you can see that we're a very multimodal campus. Even if you're driving to campus, you're probably walking around during the day. A lot of folks scoot and skate around, and that's all part of being multimodal. You can see that our live-on students have a much lower drive-alone rate. It's kind of intuitive, right? If you live on campus, you're more likely to walk or use a bike or use transit, and it's more challenging if you live further away. But 13% of our off-campus students do use transit, which is fantastic, and 8% are carpooling. I like to highlight that. That's awesome that our students are doing that. And then, again, please take the survey if you have not already done so. It's very essential data for us. So I always like to show this graph. A lot of city planners love this one because transportation is ultimately a geometry problem, right? Cars take up a lot of space, and parking takes up a lot of space. So as campus grows and enrollment increases, we're going to need to figure out how to use space more efficiently. So electric cars and autonomous cars are certainly part of the solution, but they're not the end-all be-all. Trusty things like the bus and bicycles are an important tool, and we'll continue to work on incentivizing that. So a couple projects underway that I'm excited to share with you. The first one is an employee transit pass discount program that we hope to roll out this summer. This will bring the cost from $72 to $54 per month for anybody that wants to ride transit on a monthly basis. This is a bulk rate discount from MTS, so as long as we have 400 people participating, it costs us essentially nothing. It's just a discount program that MTS offers. So my call to action for you all is to spread the word about this, share it with your colleagues. If you're already taking transit, just make sure you enroll in this to get the discount. And student affordability for transit is also a huge priority. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But our students can also get a significant discount by getting the semester pass through us, and we do add a small subsidy to that. EV charging, I heard this mentioned before, but just to deep dive a little bit further, we have around 35 EV charging stations currently, and we're adding to that rapidly. I have to recognize some folks in the room. Eric, Kristen, Glenn have been working really hard on this through a partnership with Carbon Solutions Group. This is a really innovative public-private partnership that's helping us finance, install, design, maintain, very turnkey solution to add more EV charging a lot more quickly than we could do it on our own. We have 35 more EV chargers under development. You can go into the South Campus Plaza parking garage right now and see one of those going in, and we're all really proud of this work. So car share expansion, this has also been great for us. Zipcar has been expanding the car share fleet on campus. If you're not familiar with Zipcar, it's an hourly or daily car rental program on campus. So folks that don't want to own their own car, want to live car light, but need that car occasionally, can rent one pretty affordably right here on campus. We're going to be adding 4 more cars. At least we expect to be adding 4 more cars this fall. That will bring us to 18 total. And that will put us as one of the largest Zipcar fleets in the United States, which is really exciting. We have 3 EV Zipcars now too. We have 3 Chevy Bolts over in Lot 8, so definitely check those out. If you do use them, please plug them in when you're done. Another project that we're working on is commute share. You might also hear this called van pool, but you can see from the different vehicles on screen, there's a lot of different options you can select from. So moving away from calling it van pool. This is a partnership with Commute with Enterprise and Sandag. Those that participate can save around $500 a month as opposed to driving alone. So that's a great savings, and Sandag adds an additional incentive on top of that. We do need folks to drive. If you are over the age of 25 and you have a good driving record, we'd love it if you'd be a driver for this program. So you can scan the QR code on the screen if you're interested in doing that. This will be open to students to ride, but you just cannot be a driver under Commute with Enterprise's rules. We're excited about getting this started this summer as well. So improving our outreach and communications. A lot of folks approach me, they don't even know that we have Zipcar, they don't know that we have transit pass discounts. So word of mouth and also our team being out and about on campus is really important. So we're gonna be starting a newsletter next week. It's called the Route Rundown. So please be sure to sign up for that. We recently did a Try Transit campaign. So employees could ride transit for 30 days at no cost to them, see if it works out. And we also had a week-long of fare-free transit for all of our affiliates as well. We've been beefing up social media engagements with the help of some student assistants, so be sure to follow us on Instagram. And we're also working on a Green Line housing website. Actually, when I was looking for housing, I really wanted to live near a transit-oriented development, but it was surprisingly hard to find. So we've started assembling some of those resources right on the Green Line, recommended places where folks can live and take the trolley. So I always talk about housing and transportation together because they go hand in hand, right? There's a direct impact on commuting patterns based on where you live. So the university currently has about 8,700 beds. 5,200 of those have been added in the last 10 years, which is an incredible accomplishment in and of itself. But adding more housing in and around campus is a huge part of the strategy on reducing Scope 3 emissions. And if you look around campus, you can see there's a lot of construction underway. There's developers, Aztec shops, and SDSU housing all adding more housing options all the time. So a couple transit pass things that we are looking into further. The first one is the Youth Opportunity Pass program. Sandag has been piloting this for the last couple of years. So anybody under the age of 19 can ride transit at no cost to them. They've seen amazing results from this, huge increases in youth riding transit. And Sandag's extended the funding for that for 2 more years till 2026. We are advocating to increase this age limit from 18 to 24. So if you're interested in joining some of those meetings, please let me know. Antonella and Wesley are both here. They attended this meeting with Council Member Stephen Whitburn. I was very proud of both of them for speaking up to the MTS Board Chair, Stephen Whitburn, about the priority we want to put behind the Youth Opportunity Pass program. We know Sandag's exploring further funding opportunities for this, but it is about a $40 million endeavor. So if our student body was interested in advancing a UPass idea, that would be a way we could internally reduce that fare barrier to riding transit. This is a strategy a lot of other schools have used, including UCSD, San Jose State University, as well as San Francisco State. A couple examples of their UPass are on the screen. And this would be about $60 to $70 per semester, but in comparison to driving, we know that costs our students at least $10,000 a year in car ownership costs. So this would be less than 3 months of parking, 2 airport Ubers, or 1 gas tank fill up for a regular sedan. And that's all I have. Thank you all for being here and for your time and attention. Oh, one more thing. I wanted to leave it on this note, actually. There's a sales tax referendum in November. So obviously voting is incredibly important. Please, please, please go vote. This would be a half-cent sales tax, and about 62% of it would go to transit projects. That's both capital projects like airport connection and the Purple Line, as well as increasing frequencies and cleaning and all the nice-to-haves that we want to have in our transit system. So please, please, please go vote. Tell your friends to go vote, and make sure we can all rock the vote together. Thank you all. I will turn it over to Tiago. Please welcome Tiago, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So my name is Tiago. I'm the executive chef here for the campus for dining. I've been here for almost 2 years now. It's very exciting. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our initiatives on dining as far as menu items and offerings that we have in our restaurants. I was going to start with a little tofu joke, but those are a little tasteless. So I'm going to skip that part. If you like tofu, you know, if you marinate a little bit, it makes a lot better. I'm going to start with menus of change. This is one of the principles that I'm very excited about. It's an initiative that starts on Harvard and the CIA, Culinary Institute of America, about 8 years ago. It's something that, for me, it's really exciting because it doesn't limit any diet specifically. You can still eating everything you like it, but being more conscious about your choices. The main principle, the one that I live by, is the protein flip. It's when we move on from having that big steak, the big piece of meat, as the center of plate and a side of vegetables, as making the vegetables, the legumes, the center of the plate and focusing on that part of flavor, and also using a little bit of animal product as an accent to that vegetable. So a little bit of the items, you know, we see a lot of requests for vegan, plant-based items throughout our restaurants, the ones that we operate on campus. We have about 25% plus of our menus right now being plant-based, vegan, and vegetarian, and a lot of people just not aware of it. So that's why it's important for us to keep that going and keep that communication going, so we know that we offer those items. They are there, you know. So for example, like the Terrace, one of our locations, our breakfast is 90% plant-based. You know, we have some items that are not, but a lot of people enjoy it because one of the challenges as the chef, it's making that plant-based as delicious, as appealing as comfort food, something that you're more familiar with, that you might choose when you go to a place. So another thing that we try to do is make that very seamless for people who enjoy plant-based items to order. One thing that we find out is when you call some item a vegan item, you might limit the people that enjoy that. So we try to do, for example, we have a sweet potato mushroom hash with a tofu scramble, and then we have a little icon as a little leaf next to it instead of calling that a vegan breakfast, because people tend to block that. You know, it's vegan. I'm not a vegan, so I'm not choosing that. So that's a big impactful for us. And also how important it is to reduce that meat. You know, like when people understand the impact the beef makes on sustainability and on climate change, the amount of water to grow that pound of meat, the amount of feeding that goes into 1 pound of beef versus choosing like a seafood item, which is a lot better for you and a lot better for the environment. It takes basically 1 pound of feeding to make 1 pound of fish or any seafood versus 16 pounds of feeding to 1 pound of beef. Another thing that's very exciting about our program here at Dining, it's our pre-consumer waste diversion. When I came to San Diego State, like about a little under 2 years ago, I was very pleased to see like our kitchens are very well used to it. Our cooks and chefs are well trained into composting. So all our pre-consumer, all like the trimmings, all of like the waste that a kitchen produces on a daily basis goes straight to composting. So it's very minimum trash, and then we recycle everything, cans, plastics, everything that's possible to recycle. It's a very strong program. I'm very proud to be part of it. Another thing that we started this year is the post-consumer. That's a big challenge. And you guys know, like when you need to choose the bin that you're gonna put your trash, on our busy lives and every day kind of gets a little bit on the way. So we're trying to avoid a lot of the landfill trash can and make sure that everything, that all the vessels that we use it are compostable. Mainly, that's our primarily goal, and recyclable. There's a little, we noticed a lot of financial benefits lately as compostable go down in price a lot, and then we'll be able to use that, and you see a lot more of those items when you order food and when you get the grab and goes, and it's very interesting. Sometimes looks like plastic, and you tended to put on a recycle bin, but it's actually compostable. So yeah, that's the post-consumer. Getting people to separate the trash, that's the biggest challenge. So it's an educational thing that keeps on going, and very glad that we're all here together today, because that's what we do, and then we gotta keep expanding that out of this room. We all know this, and we're all passionate about sustainability, but passing on the information and keep it going, that's our challenge. So that's the whole cycle, right? So we compost it. It goes to, we have a few compostable bins in our gardens. I'm gonna get to that in a little bit. And then we use that to grow vegetables. That goes all the way in the cycle around. We can request compostable from San Diego Waste Management that we use it here on campus. We compost about 33 tons a year. We produce it. So it's a lot of trash that we diverge from the landfill. Yeah, that's a very impactful picture of it, trash. So with that would be on the landfill. So now it comes right back to us. And then we are able to use that in our garden. If you guys are familiar, we have a vegetable garden behind the faculty club. It's very exciting to use those vegetables. That's our compostable here on campus, a lot smaller than the landfill. But everything that we grow in there, we can keep it in-house and avoid more trash. Those are a little bit of the grow towers. If you guys walk around campus, you see at the garden restaurant or the faculty club, we have those hydroponic towers. This is a seedling table where we put all the seeds and they grow. Once they get mature, about the little big spinach in there, in the green leaf lettuce, we transfer that to the towers, and those are the towers. The towers are very exciting projects as well. When I moved in here, I was stoked to see that we do this here. It saves a lot of water. All the water that will seep into the ground. We can produce about 55 heads of lettuce every 3 weeks in those towers, so it's a nice turnaround. We use mostly at the faculty club because it's a smaller operation. We won't be able to feed our 30,000 students. We need to transfer, we need to have towers everywhere. But you know, it's enough to make a little bit of impact. And then what I wanted today to you guys is like, just think about the minimum change that we make in ourselves and how much that impact, just by reducing like the amount of meat, beef that we take it like on a weekly basis. If you skip one day, it can make a huge impact on the long run. That's our walkway garden. Hello, walkway. In my first week here was harvest time because I start right on July, and it was a beautiful week. I started already with like beautiful heirloom tomatoes and the squash that was growing there, summer squash. So some of our chefs, the chefs are very excited about this project as well because they can request it for our gardeners, like whatever they wanted to grow. Some chefs bring seeds from their house, some different types of chilies and things. And so keep us excited about our business of cooking, and then makes it easier to elevate the vegetable because they taste better. So when you eat some of those, it's more pleasant and it's more delicious. Because in the end of the day, our job is to make it delicious. Right? We try, if there is a responsibility as a chef, as a operator, kitchens and restaurants on sustainability, but the challenge is make that appealing where people seamless choose the best items for them. And that's me, breaking vegetables. Very good time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Thiago. Okay, great presentations. Well, I got a lot out of it, so I'm going to let everybody know. JD, because of you, I'm going to sell my car, and I'm going to take the trolley every day. Well, actually, I did that 7 years ago. So I get snaps, everybody. No car, no car. If anybody ever wants to ask me about how to go full transit and how to get away from your car and really have a car breakup, please talk to me, because I did it. It's painful in the beginning, but it's going to be okay. So let's see. I just want to thank everyone, Kristen, Brian, Thiago, JD, really great information. Let's give them all a big round of applause, okay? Because thank you. They're going to be a part of what I call, actually, Jessica, I think you coined it, the sustainable revolution, because I'm here for it, okay? Oh, yeah. So let's see. Oh, it looks like we have time for a few questions. So this is the part where I have to take this and learn how to work a Surface Pro, because I don't know how to work these. Okay, somebody help, because I'm a Mac user, folks. Molly, help me, please. This is the time if anybody has any. Oh, I've got a hand raised in the back. And do I have a mic runner? Looking for? We got a mic for you. We're going to make it easy. And he's going to run to you. So, and in the meantime, I'm going to look up questions while they happen. So give us a minute. We'll have our first question. Anything else I want to bring up here? Is there anything else going on? Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Presenters, please come up to the stage for me. Thank you so much. Kristen, JD, Thiago, Brian. That's right. And everybody's got a mic here, so. We've got our question? Back here, Joe.
All right. First question up from Elizabeth.
I just wanted to know if the hydroponic towers were compatible with gray water.
Sorry, can you repeat it?
Were the hydroponic towers
gray water?
compatible with
No,
gray
they
water?
are not. So the hydroponic towers, the way they operate it, we have to add nutrients to it. So we place an order. There are two types of it: the hydroponic ones or the aquaponics. They use fish as producing the nutrients for the plants, but we're not in that stage.
Okay. Oh, we have another hand right here. So, we have a QR code as well. If anybody wants to go technology, we've got a QR code you can ask, and I'll do that as well. So,
on 2030, when the cogen plant is going to be retired and we switch to the solar power, is that solar power going to be able to produce 100% power for the university? And the second one is, I'm guessing that we are still going to be connected to the grid when we switch to the solar power, if we have to do some maintenance on the solar panels or battery. Is that the case?
Is this working? Oh, yeah. So I guess the timing, just want to clarify on the cogen, is something that is currently in flux, is dependent on funding as well as a lot of other technical issues that the camp, or challenges, that the campus is working through. So the timing is not. What we do know is that the cogen is currently 20 years old. So that's sort of the general timeline of when equipment's reaching the end of life. In the future, there would be a form of backup power through generators in addition to the solar and storage, which would use biodiesel, and would rely on importing significantly more electricity from San Diego Gas and Electric. So in the future, or a future without a cogen plant, would still have